समप्रभा निर्विघ्नं कुरु मे देव सर्वकार्येषु सर्वदा सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा. See, this class, when I studied Shiksha, I personally had a lot of doubts about Jastva. Nothing was very clear and it went like unanswered. So I thought when people started asking questions, I thought I would clarify, but I have a disclaimer right now. This is not in your syllabus. This is only for your better understanding. If you get confused today, I hope you don't. But in case you do get confused, please unlearn whatever I'm teaching today and go back to whatever you had understood. Okay? Okay, Mami. Okay. Okay, this is one. Then are a couple.
Namaste, Bhagini.
Namaste. There were a couple of questions that was asked. Why is it Prague? This is just an example I've taken. At some places and Prague and some places, which is correct? And then what do we start with? Whether slides Drishyate va? No. Okay. Just 1 second. No. Sorry. I thought I had shared. I'm sorry. Idanim drishyate? Amani. Idanim drishyate. I had a couple of questions asked. Mute Pavantu Sandhi. Please be on mute, everybody. Okay. A couple of questions were, why is it Prague at some places and Prague at other places? Which of them is correct? And what do we start with? Whether Tat or Tad, Sharad or Sharad? Because sometimes we say Sharad plus Chandra becoming Sharad Chandra. So we do not know whether it has to start with Sharad or Sharad, Tat or Tad. So in Shiksha level, whatever you are taught is actually appropriate. Even if you go to Sandhi, app, this is what it's being taught. But then if you have doubts, I thought it is not, you will be stuck in your mind. So it is better to clarify. So as I told, if it confuses you more, please unlearn less and go back to whatever you had learned before. And the third question is, why is it Vipad or Vipad? If you see the Shabda Rupa of Vipad or some other Prague and Prague, it will have two options. Vipad / Vipat. In the Prathama Ekavachana. Prathama Vibhakti Ekavachana Rupam would be Vipat / Vipat, Prague / Prague, like that. So why is it like that? We will just find out. Anybody can tell me what is Jastva Sandhi definition?
Shall I tell? Anunasikaya Vargitavantana Sware Munduvantane Pare Tat Vargasya Trutiya Aksharam.
No, you said Pare. Okay, Pare, what should be there?
Pare Swara Mruduvanjana.
So it is Anunasika Vihaya Vargiya Vyanjanam plus Swara Mrudu Vyanjana
or Mrudu Vyanjanam.
What is the Adesha?
Gajadatapa.
Jash. That is the third letter.
Jash.
Correct. Jash Adesha Bhavati Ataha Jastva Sandhi iti Namaha. So when we saw the sutram, it was like Jhalam Jashonte. Remember? That means Padante yadi Jhal chet Jhal Jash Bhavati. If you see what is Jhal, we know that Jhal will comprise of all these letters. And if you reduce deduce, you'll find out it will be Anunasika Vihaya Vargiya Vyanjanani and Sha Sha Saha. I told you that Sha Saha will not be becoming Jastva because something else happens. So only Sha, Murdhanya Sha is considered, which will turn to Da. 1 second, please. 1 second, I have somebody at the door. I'll just answer and come. Sorry.
Namaste, Bhagini.
Okay, sorry, Shriyateva.
Amani.
So only Sha would is considered and Sha would change to Da. That is a special condition, and even this is not given in your textbook. Okay, only they say Anunasika Vihaya Vargiya Vyanjanani plus Vara or Midvyanjana becomes Jash. Then we see this. This is in Shashti Vibhakti. So I told you whatever is there in Shashti Vibhakti will be this Thani. That means that is the one that will get replaced. So Jhal, that means Anunasika Vihaya Vargiya Vyanjana, which is the Purva Pada, Purva Akshara, that will get changed. And Jash is Jashaha is Jashka Pratama Vibhakti Eka Vachana. So that will be the Adeshaha. So it is just saying Jhal, the Sthani will become Jhash. Okay. Do you see any Saptami, Panchami, Tritiya Vibhakti, any words in this? You just see Jhalam, which is Shashti, Jash, which is Pratama, right? Understood?
Yes,
Do
Mani.
we see Saptami, Panchami, Tritiya words?
Ante.
Ante. That is Ante is Padante. It is not. Yeah. Padante yadi jhal chet jhal jash bhavati. That's all, right? What would Saptami mean? Saptami would mean what should be before it. Panchami would mean what would be sorry, Saptami would mean what should be after it, Panchami would mean what should be before it, and Tritiya would mean Stohastunashtu. It would just mean either front or back. Wherever it is, it will happen. But we are not finding any Saptami or Panchami or Tritiya here, right? So, what does this mean? Purva nimittam va paranimittam va na apekshyate. So, for the Jastva Sandhi to happen, there is no condition as to what has to be before it, as to what has to be after it. Purvam va param va kaha varnaha bhavet iti nimittam nasti. So, while actually teaching the Jastva Sandhi through sutras, I had given this slide. So I thought I would explain if anybody asked this question, but none of you asked. So I just skipped because I didn't want to confuse you. And probably you were also very overwhelmed with the sutras and all. So nobody asked. So that is why I kept telling you that these doubts will clarify if you go through the Jastva Sandhi definition itself. So the definition says Jhalam Chashonte. That means there is no condition as to what the next word has to be, right? That means whatever it is, if there is a jhal, that means Anunasika Vihaya Vargiya Vyanjana, that will become Jash. Understood? There is no Saptami here. Like in all other examples, let's say for example, Chatvam, we had that, right? After that, Saptami was Khari. Khari means Karkasha. Kharicha was the Sutram. That means only if you have a Karkasha Vyanjana, then Chartvam will happen. And in Anunasika, we had only if there is a what? Anunasika, right? Only if there is an Anunasika next to it, then it will happen. So for example, for every Sandhi, we have encountered something had to be in front of it. And in special, some few examples, few Sandhis, we've also seen something had to be prior to it also. Right? There should be a hrasva for this one, all that. So in this case, we see that there is no kada condition. It is just saying jhalam jash bhavati. So whenever there is a jhal, jash takes place. But still, we have the definition as jhal plus swaraha or mriduvyanjanam equals just. This is the definition given, right, in your textbook, even in Sandhi app, everywhere. At Shiksha's Thare, this is Shiksha or whatever level, this is the definition given. So let's see why it is given. Okay? Till now we have understood? Okay, now let's see what will happen. See, jalam jashonte. Purvam va param va kaha varnah bhavet iti nimittam nasti. So there is no condition as to what has to be in front of it or behind it. Andre ಹಿಂದೆಯ ಮುಂದೆಯ ಯಾವ ವರ್ಣವಿರಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಯಾವುದೇ ನಿರ್ಬಂಧನ ಇಲ್ಲ. ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಎಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಜಲ್ಲಿರುತ್ತೋ ಅಲ್ಲೆಲ್ಲಿ ಜಶ್ ಆಗತ್ತೆ ಅಂತ ಸೂತ್ರ ಹೇಳ್ತಾ ಇದೆ. ಪೂರ್ವವರ್ಣ ಕಹ ವರ್ಣ ಭವಿತುಂ ಅರ್ಹತಿ. So suppose some varna is coming next to it. What are the possibilities that varna can be? In the Aksharamala, we know it can either be a swara or a vyanjana, right? Whatever has to come next to it either has to be swara or a vyanjana, right? Agreed?
Agreed, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, now if we split this vyanjana, we can split this vyanjana into mrudu vyanjana and karkasha vyanjana. So it will comprise of all the vyanjanas, right? See, mrudu vyanjana will have third, fourth, fifth letter, also sha, saha. And karkasha vyanjana will have first and second letter of all the vargas, and mrudu vyanjana will have yara, lava. Karkasha vyanjana will have shasha, saha. That means we have completed everything, vargiya vyanjana and avargiya vyanjana, in this mrudu vyanjana and karkasha vyanjana, and we also have swara. So any akshara that can come next to it either has to be a swara or a vyanjana. That means it can be a swara, mrudu vyanjana, or a karkasha vyanjana. Agreed? It cannot be anything other than this. Agreed, all of you?
Agreed. Yes.
Now let's see what each case we will take and see what happens. Okay? Swara or mrudu vyanjana pare, what happens? We will just see. We have seen vak plus ishaha. So there is one vak shabda and there is here ishaha. Here there is a swara coming in. So there is a samhita. So sandhi has to happen. So ka and e, we know Jastva sandhi happens because it is anunasika vihaya vargiya vyanjana plus swara. So it becomes vag isha because of Jastva vagisha. Atra pashyatu Jastvam shruyate. Vak plus ishaha vagishaha Jastvam shruyate. And after this, there is no chance of any other sandhi happening, right? It has to stop here. There is no other sandhi that can happen after this, right? Agreed?
Agreed, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
So this is because of swara or mrudu vyanjana. Now let's see. No, that was a swara. Let's see mrudu vyanjana. Vak vivadaha. Va is a mrudu vyanjana. Same thing. Ka is facing va. Ka changes to ga because of Jastva and it becomes vag vivadaha. Atrapi Jastvam shruyate. We can see that Jastva happening. Vak plus vivadaha, vag vivadaha, Jastvam shruyate. Now let's see what happens if a karkasha vyanjana takes place. See, here also no other sandhi can happen. It has to stop here. Let's see karkasha vyanjana pare what happens. Vak plus patihi. There is a pa here which is a karkasha vyanjana. So vak plus patihi first, it changes because of Jashtvam. In your mind, you are thinking, how can that happen? It's a karkasha vyanjana. I told you, sutra, if you go to sutra, actual sutra, there is no condition. So anything that follows jhal, it will undergo Jastva. See, that is the rule. It is not that karkasha vyanjana Jastva will not happen. Okay, so vak plus patihi, it becomes a vagpatihi because of Jashtvam. But the thing is, after this, there is an opportunity. Since it is a karkasha vyanjana, there is a conducive environment for chartvam to happen. We know what chartvam is, right? Anybody can tell what chartvam condition is?
Anunasika vihaya vargiya vyanjanam plus karkasha vyanjanam will give the varnasya pratamaha char.
Uttamam. Uttamam. So Chatvam is, if you get back the first.
Yes.
So here, see, there is a conducive environment. There is a Karkasha Vyanjana following it. So, and Chatvam is also Nitya Sandhi, remember. So it has to happen. So it changes back to Ka. Understood? Vakpatihi became Vagpatihi and went back to Vakpatihi. So atra tu Vakpatihi Jashtvam na shruyate. So you think Vakpatihi became Vakpatihi and final answer Vakpatihi. If I tell you Vakpatihi is equal to Vakpatihi Chatvam, you will be thinking what? How can it be? How can it be Chatvam? So this is the actual process according to Paninian system that has happened. This is the Sandhi Prakriya that has happened. It has first changed to Vag because of Chatvam and has come back to Vag because of Chatvam. So you might think, why is this needed? Isn't it redundant? No, it is not. But in most of the cases, this is what happens. And that is why the general rule that they have done is only Jashtvam happens only on Swara or Nrudyu Vyanjana. Because that is a
Bhagini
place.
na shruyate.
Is it?
We can hear Bhagini.
Shruyate, ma'am. Shruyate.
We can hear you.
Bhagini, volume. Try to do something from your side. Increase the volume or something. Okay, so the definition will be, see, if I say Sware or Mridhivanjane Pare Jastam Bhavasi, everywhere you can see it. You can feel it rather. If it is Karkasha Vyanjana, since it's going back, the definition what they've given is as if Jastam is happening only on Swara or Mridhivanjana. So, but in reality, if you look at the sutra, you will understand that Jastam happens everywhere. It's just that it goes back because of Karkasha Vyanjana to its original. So you remember we had that what was it? Tatkalatram, Satpurushaha. Some Bhagini was asking, is there a Sandhi here? See, those things are not considered even in your textbook as a Sandhi. Remember, Tatkalatram, Tat plus Kalatram, it feels like it is a Samhita, but actually it is Tadkalatram, which is again Jastva, and then going back to Chartva, it becomes Tatkalatram. See, that is the actual Sandhi Prakriya according to Paninian system. Okay, so this will probably make certain things clear, because at least for me it was very, very haunting that how can, at some places it can be. So once I came to know that everywhere Jastva happens, 50% of the questions was answered. So, clear till now? Any doubts?
Yes, Mani, I had exactly the same thing. I asked my teacher also. She said, I don't want to confuse you. You know, that same thing. Tad kalatram.
And in fact, when I asked, none of the teachers answered also. So I just, I assumed that and proceeded. Anyway, if it is not confusing for you, I'm happy. But if it is confusing, no, don't get confused. But please do not write all this in your exam, please. As far as the exam is concerned, as far as the exam definition is concerned, it is just Sware or Mridhivanjane Pare. Understood?
So Manya here, so according to me, I always feel Vagpatihi, it stops there only. So now after you explained that even Chatvam happens, how it is now I understood clearly.
Yeah, so, Vagpatihi would never have happened if you go as per the only Swara or Mridhivanjana, because it's a Karkasha Vyanjana. We think Jasvam can never happen, right?
Yes, Manya. Yes.
When Mahodaya had asked in the post also, he had posted how Jastam can happen. I had not explained in the class because it might confuse people who do not have this doubt at all. So this is it. It is the first Jastam and going back to it, original form, most of the places. I'll give you an example where it does not go to the original form also. Then you'll appreciate the breakup. Okay, so till I hope everybody is clear till now. So Jashtvam will happen for everything. It is not just Svara or Mridhivanjana, but have this in some part of your memory, where that part of your memory you will not use in your exam. Okay, in your exam it is only Svara or Mridhivanjana. Okay, let's proceed.
Mani, in the exam, Vak plus Patini, we should write Vak Patihi Chatvam.
Oh my, no, Bhagini. That is why I didn't want to see. Please, in your exam, this part is not there. This is only for your. In your
Okay.
exam, I'm telling you, it is only Swara or Mridu Vyanjana.
They will
I
not
did not.
ask Patihi.
They will not give Vakpatihi, Bhagini. They will give you Vag and Patihi, and then you will have to change it to Vakpatihi for Chatva. They will not give you Vakpatihi because, as per the definition, Vak, Ka, and Pa cannot face.
Samyoga. It is just Samyoga Bhavati.
Okay, Bhagini. That's all I can tell. Yeah, okay, take it as Samhita. I hope I'm not confusing.
Okay, I'm not
Not
confused.
Bhagini.
No, I am.
It's clear, ma'am. It's clear.
It's clear, no? I don't want to confuse anybody and put them in.
No, nothing. You continue, please.
Please listen. I'll tell you one more time. This is only for your understanding. In your exam, as per the textbook definition, Jashtvam happens only if there is a Swara or Mriduvanjana. Okay. If they ask for definition, it is only with Swara or Mriduvanjana. Okay. Okay.
Ma'am, hello, ma'am.
Yeah.
Hello, ma'am. So you are saying that in Panini rules he has given that Karkash will also be included.
He has not given that. I told you, I showed you what is the rule.
Yeah.
Chalam Jashonte.
Correct,
That means there is nothing, no condition.
Ma'am,
So
how
it
do we take this into conclusion?
How do you take what to conclusion?
Yeah,
Say,
this
because
Karkash
there is-
Vyanjani, how can we include that?
What?
How do we include Miss Swara or Mrudu is there for Paravarna, right?
Okay, Bhagini. Listen, there is Jalam Jashonte. That means there is nothing there. I am sorry, I don't. Have you been attending the classes? Because
Of course,
I have.
ma'am.
Okay, I have always told you that there is a Saptami in the Sutra. There will be something in Saptami. There will be something in Panchami. Saptami tells what has to come after it. Panchami tells what has to come before it. Have you understood that part?
Yes. That yes.
Okay, if you look at the sutra, there is nothing in Panchami, nothing in Saptami, nothing else other than Jalam Jash, right? So that means Jash Jal will always become Jash. That's all. If it is Padante, if the Jal is at the end of the word, it will always become Jash. That is implied, right?
Correct.
Because there is no condition. If there is no condition, that means it is implied with whatever comes after it. After it, Jashtva will happen.
Okay.
It is implied. So, what can come after it? If you look at the Aksharamala, everything you can divide it into Swara and Vyanjana.
Correct.
Right?
Correct.
And Vyanjana, you can divide it into Mrudu Vyanjana and Karkasha.
Yeah.
So that is why I considered first Swara and Mridu Vyanjana and then Karkasha Vyanjana.
Okay.
So Swara and Mridu Vyanjana, you see that Jashtvam is happening. We know this. Vagisha and Vagvivada, we have learnt in that.
Yeah.
But what part we have not learnt is this,
Karkasha.
where it is Karkasha Vyanjana Kare. So now I'm telling you, Jashtvam happens even in that, but it will go back because Jashtvam happening again.
That part I got. Yeah.
Understood, right?
Yeah.
So why we took Karkasha? Because since there is nothing after it, that means anything, any Swara or Vyanjana comes, Jashtvam will definitely happen. Okay. But please don't write this in exam.
Of course.
Understood?
Yeah. Yes.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
Okay.
Okay, now let's go. So now the second question was, how do we start? Yadda, Tyatta, Maritta, Maridda. We have so many things. So obviously it's confusing. How do we start? So when then there is a word. When Samhita happens, it takes one form. When Samhita happens, Samhita is there. That means Sandhi happens. It will take one form. When Samhita is not there, it will take another form. So Samhitayam, that means Samhita Asti, then it will take one form. Samhita Abhave, it will take another form. So, but then before that, it will have something called the Mula Rupa or Prarambha Rupa. Prarambha Rupa and Mula Rupa are not technical terms. It's just for explanation only. It is used. Okay, there is something to start with. And from there, you move on. So, what is that something that is starting? So, here, there are two things. Samaseshu pratamaika vachane samanyata pratipadika rupam. Samanyataha. This is usually used everywhere because most of the cases will be like this and there will be few exceptions. So usually you see samanyataha or prayaha in any definitions as such. So samaseshu, in samasas, and prathama eka vachana. That means I told you, if you take prak, shabdarupa, it will say prak or prak in 1.1. In 1.1, that is Shabdarupa Eka Pratama Vibhakti Eka Vachana, it will have two forms. Okay, so if that is used, then you will have to start with the Pratipadikam. What is a Pratipadikam? If you look at Sharad, okay, if you look at Sharad, the first line will be Sharad Sharadau Sharadaha. So if only this first word is given to you, you will assume that it is a takara ending, sharat, and you will start the sandhi with sharat. So you'll say sharat plus kalam. So that is not right because sharat is just 1.1, but if you go on to the next one, you are seeing sharadau sharadaha. That means it is a dakaranta pada. It is not sharat, it is sharad. Moola rupam is sharad. Pratipadikam is sharad. Sharad pratipadikam. One first line, that is Pratama Vibhakti, will be Sharat, Sharadau, Sharadaha. So whenever you have Sharat word, you should start off with Sharad and not Sharat. Okay. Same thing with Marut. See, for this, how you are very familiar with Rama Shabda and Rama Shabda. Even the Halanta Shabdas, you need to be very familiar. Marut Shabda, if you say, it will be Marut, Marutau, Marutaha. So everywhere there is takara only. So it is a takaranta shabda. So here marut, you will start off with marut only. Whereas sharat, you will start with sharad. So that's why we have sharad plus kalaha, sharat kalaha. Okay. So you have to know what anta the word has. Like for example, yad, tad, asmad, yushmad, sharad, suhrud, all these are dakaranta. And therefore you have to start off with yad. Now, for us in Shiksha, usually they say it is a multi-step sandhi. That means there are two or more sandhis happening. We can start at any level. Okay, that is fine with us. But as you go, if you go to Vyakarana Shastra, if you study Laghu Siddhanta Kaumudi and all, then they will ask you to start properly from its Moola Rupa. So whenever you have some Tat Shabda, you will always have to start with the Tad only and then derive fully and come to that stage. So that's why I'm explaining. This may not be relevant to you for Shiksha level, but just know that Yad, Tad, Asmad and all are Dakaranta and they have to start with that Pratipadikam. So Marut, Jagat, Bhagavat, Mahat, Buddhimat are all Takaranta. Then Sumidh, Yudh, Shuddhar or Dhakaranta. Up is Pakaranta. Anushtup is Bhakaranta. And Shash is Shakaranta. So all these are Binna Binnantas. All these will start, any sandhi having this, like Sharat Kala will always start with Sharad. And Mahad plus Akanksha, Mahadakanksha. But you will have to start with Mahat only because it is the Pratipadikam. So usually it will be the Pratipadikam in case of Samasa and Pratamaika Vachane. But there are certain words, kadachit parivartita rupam, like watch. So we have studied vak at so many places, right? Just a previous slide also, I gave you example with vak. The Moola Rupa is watch. But we were not considering the Pratipadikam here. Why? Because it would have undergone some parivartana parivartitaha abhavat. How? Because of some other, sutra, which is applied even before Jastvam or whatever the sandhis that we have learned. For example, here, there is another sutra which comes even before Jastvam called Chohu Ku. Chohu is what? Shashti of Chu. That will be Sthani, that is Chu, that is Chavarga, becomes Kavarga respectively. So that is why Vach has become Vak, Vanij. See, Vach, Vanij, Bishaj are all Pratipadikams. This is a Chakaranta ending, Jakaranta ending, Jakaranta ending. But because even before Jashtvam, this has been applied, Vach has become Vak, Vanij has become Vanig, Bishaj has become Bishag. Since we are not studying this and we are starting from Jashtvam, we will be taking Vak as a starting, Vanig as starting, Bishag as starting. Okay? Why? So that is why, even though the Mula is Vach, it has already undergone to Vak by the time it has come to Jashtva. That is why we start with Vak. Okay? So same thing, Dish. Dish has changed to Dig, Drish has changed to Drug, and Tadrish has changed to Tadrig because of some other sutra even before Jashtva. Okay, so that is why, if you remember, I don't know how many remember, we had an example, Etadrig plus Kirtihi. One Mano Mahodaya had asked and had posted this one, Etadrig Kirtihi. So we didn't understand in the class what is Etadrig or Tadrik. So it is Etadrish is the Pratipadikam, or Tadrish is a Pratipadikam, but it has undergone a change and becomes Tadrig. So we are taking that as the base because we are not aware at this stage as to why that change has happened. We do not know about this sutra Chohuku in our Shikshastara. So for us, we are getting it as Vak and we start with Vak. Okay. So many had, I'm sure all of you had this doubt, though Vach is the Mula Rupam, why are we using Vak? Why are we using Vanig when Vanij is the Mula Rupam or a Pratipadika? Okay?
Ma'am, can I ask one question, ma'am?
Yeah.
Yeah, if I'm not wrong, is this does this go with Vak plus Shastram, Vak Chatram or Vach Chatram? Which is correct? I just want to know if I'm appropriate with this.
That I've told you, no, according to which Sandhi comes first. Okay, first listen why it is Vak. We will further go, you find out if you understand why it is Vak. This class is why it is Vak instead of Vach. Okay, this Vach is a Pratipadikam.
Can be applied, I think, for
No, Bhagini, this Vach is a Pratipadikam. After that, we start with Vak and Shastram. That is Vag and Shastram, or it would be first actually it will be Jashtvam and then Shtutvam. Because of Shtutvam or Chartvam, see, what is the example that you asked? Vak and Shastram.
Shastram.
See, there Vak and Shastram, there is a Shakara which is a what? Karkasha Vyanjana. Therefore, Chartvam takes place and that has changed to Vach. Okay? That is not the Pratipadikam. Okay? Understood, Bhagini? See, Yad Tad Marutanam, I'm talking about Pratipadikams. Vak Pratipadikam is Vach Shabda. You can't, if you are looking out for a Shabda Rupa, you can't look for Vak, you will not get it. Only if you look for Vach, you will get the Shabda Rupa.
Yeah, that's the doubt, madam. I thought it is Vach Chatram, but it is
No. That is because of this is the Pratipadikam. That is because of Chartvam. This ka changed to cha. That Vach is different. Okay, and that cannot stand alone. This is a standalone thing. Okay. That is a part of a Sandhi, and Sandhi has to happen, and that will become Vachatram or whatever. Okay.
Manye, that choh ku means the cha varga will change to ka varga, Manye.
No, that's the way. Cha varga, yes, cha, correct. Cho is the
cha, because ja, so because it becomes ga, vanij becomes vanig.
Yeah, respectively. So here see vanig is a pratipadikam. It has a chakara, which is a third letter. So the chavarga is changing to kavarga and the third letter only. Respectively.
Third letter. Okay. If it is first letter, it will change to first letter of the.
Like this. Vach and Vak. First letters here, third letter here. So these are all. See, don't worry about this. I'm telling you, this is also because of some sutra. It is in. Now, if you are wondering where to start off, so vanij is the pratipadikam. We will have to start off with vanig. Okay, so that's why we say vanig hasati. Okay, vanig hasati.
clear, Manye. Dhanyavada. That is, we have to actually remember, we have to find out the Pratipadakam and then
at this, don't worry, break your head for Shiksha. I'm telling you. Don't. This is not, this much of information is not at all needed. But then since you had all these doubts, okay, do now for Shiksha, don't start thinking, where should I start? What is a Pratipadikam? No, it's not needed. But just think.
No, at least our doubt is cleared, Manye. Thank you so much, Manye.
Sure. But have in mind all these things. Don't apply it for Shiksha level, okay?
So you mean to say, ma'am, Shiksha, they ask you question that, like, split the Sandhi, Vakpatihi only, not Vagpatihi.
They'll ask Vagpati.
They'll ask. They do not.
Vag they'll ask. Vagpati, because that is a Chatva happening. They will not ask Vakpatihi, right? Because as per the definition.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. Okay. So now I'll just give you certain examples to find out how exactly it's happening. I've taken 2 examples. The first one is either a Swara or a Mrudivenchana that we have studied. See, this Jastva, the green one, we have studied in our textbook. I am considering the Chatva also just to explain you. I had told you 2 slides back what happens. I am just giving you examples for this. For example, Sat plus Anandaha, Jastvam Pare. So after Jastvam, what happens? Sat becomes, because there is a Swara, it becomes Sad, Anandaha, Sadananda. And it stops there because there is no other Sandhi that can happen. Whereas Sat, if I have it with Karyam, it becomes Sad Karyam because of Jastvam. Okay, Jastvam is happening with Karkasha also, out of Shiksha portions, please. It is not in Shiksha portion, it is happening with Karkasha Vyanjana also. But after this, because of Chatvam is a Nitya Sandhi, so after Chatvam, it becomes Satkaryam again and changes back to Satkaryam. See, Satkaryam is what we had, we got back. Bhagavat Gita. Jastvam Pare, Bhagavad Gita. We know this. After that, nothing happens. It ends there. Bhagavat Pada. Bhagavat Padaha also undergoes Jastvam, becomes Bhagavad Padaha, but again because of Chartvam which immediately follows, it comes back to Bhagavat Padaha. Ach Antaha changes to Ajantaha, as we know, Jastva Sandhi, but Ach Sandhihi, it has a Karkasha Vyanjana, becomes Aj Sandhihi, and because of Chartvam, it goes back to Ach Sandhihi. Okay, these are all the examples where the changes are not seen. Now let's see another example. Anushtub asti. This is a bhakara. I told you this pratipadikam is anushtub. So we have to start with bh. So this was one question that bothered me because at some places, at some examples, they would have given anushtub with a ba, small ba, and at some places with a Mahapranaba. So I kept wondering where to start, how to start and all that. So Anushtub is how you have to start because it is a Bhakaranta ending Shabda. So Anushtub plus Asti becomes Anushtub, third letter because Jashtvam with a small ba, Alpa Pranaba, Anushtub Asti. This is the Jashtva that we know. Anushtub Chandaha. Anushtub Chandaha, see first because of Jashtvam, it becomes Anushtub with a small ba and Chandaha, and next because of Chartvam, you know what it has become? It has become Anushtub Chandaha. Now do you see the changes? Bha, first change to ba and then that change to pa. Okay, this is the series that is grammatically right. This is the step. Anushtub. First changes to small ba and then changes to pa. In your exam, they will start from here only. They will say Anushtub with a small ba plus Chandaha because it's Karkash Vyanjana, and all you have to do is Anushtub Chandaha Chartva. Okay, that's all. They will not give you this part because the definition in the textbook doesn't support Karkasha Vyanjana. Same thing with Shash. Shash is a Pratipadikam of 6. Shat. All the Pancha, or we have that, no? Ekam, Dvi, all that. for shash is the pratipadikam of 6. So we start with pratipadikam shash plus anana, shadanana. See here, this whole example you will never get in exam. They will just give you shadanana and you will say shat plus anana. I'm not saying it's wrong, but grammatically it is. Okay, now you know it is wrong because it has to start with shash and anana. Sh changes to the shadanana, it stops there. So if you have to split shadanana, where is da coming from? It has to be shash plus anana only. Okay, but in your text, in your shiksha level, we break it as shat and anana, ta changing to da because of Jastva we say. The next say
Mani under Jastva, how will Sha become Da? Can you please explain that?
Sha because Murdanya Sha, so it will follow ta varga, third letter.
Okay.
Ta varga is also Murdanya. Sha here is Murdanya. It will since it is avargiya, it will go with the sthani. It will go with Murdanya, that is Tavarga. Third letter of ta becomes da. Okay.
So it's not only Vargiya Vyanjana as we learnt, it is basically...
It is Vargiya Vyanjana and Shasha Saha as per definition, but Sha, the first Shankara Sha and Saha will not take place because of something else. Something else will happen even before Jastva. But so this is the only thing which is considered for Jastva and not in textbook also. This is also not given in textbook, I guess, right? Has it been given?
No, not in Sandhis, only in Pravesha book when Shabdas are given, Shakarant, Shad Shabda, that it's given only there.
Okay. Okay. But this is actual one case of Jastva where Sha changes to Da. So actually, grammatically talking, it has to be Shadanana should be truly Shash and Anana. Okay. But you can't help it. You break it as Shat and Anana and you will be given marks for that. Okay, next Shash and Chakrani. This is a Karkasha Vyanjana. See here also it changes to Shad first because of Jastva and then next to because of Chartvam it comes back to Shat Chakrani. See here there is Shat. Jastva and then Chartva you get Shat. So there is no way you say Shadanana is Shat plus Anana. If you look at this, you can understand there is no way you can get Shatanana, Shat and Anana because it has to start from Shash. But don't worry, you write it as Shat and Anana, it's okay. But just have in mind that this is a thing, Shat Chakrani, Shat Chakrani. Because of Chartvam, it is becoming Shat Chakrani. Okay? Understood?
In this example, Sandhi,
Nashuyate Bhagini, it's not clear. Repeat, please.
In H now it is clear, Bhagini. H plus Sandhi in this example, Sa is not Karkasa Vyanjana.
Sa is Karkasha, Shasha Saha. Yara Lava is Mridu Vyanjana. Sometimes Sometimes Ha will be placed Mridu Vyanjana and Karkasha Vyanjana. That is why you remember Maheshwari Sutra, Ha is placed twice. Because it has got the, sometimes it will have the characteristics of, it is placed under Mridu Vyanjana, sometimes in Karkasha Vyanjana.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah, anybody has it? Okay. Now let's see Padante. There's the last question pending. That is Pratama Vibhakti Ekavachana. Why are there two forms? Okay. What happens? Padante yadi jhal chet, jal jash bhavati. Samhita adhikaraha nasti. That means there is, it is not requiring any samhita. Jastva always happens is what happens. But what happens if there is samhita? Samhita asti chet, agrimaha varnam ashritya sandhi bhavati. Let's see what it means. See, mahat asti. This one, there is a swara here. So, if the Jastva happens, mahad asti, and nothing else happens after this. So, the final will be mahad asti. This is swara. Look at this example, Bhagavat Puja. Bhagavad Puja Jastva happens, then Bhagavat Puja Chartvam happens. So, it will be Bhagavat Puja. Now, Sat Chidanandaha. It becomes Sad Chidanandaha because of Jastva and Sach Chidanandaha because of Chutva. So Sachidananda. And this one Jagat Natha becomes Jagad Natha because of Jastva. And this change, because there is an Anunasika here, this changes to its corresponding Anunasika. So Jagannatha. So what I'm trying to convey is, depending on the akshara that is following it, then the sandhi happens accordingly. Here it stops, here chartva is happening, here chutva is happening, here anunasika is happening. So somewhere, so whenever there is a samhita, varnam ashritya sandhi bhavati. Depending on what is coming next to it, sandhi happens. So it might be just like this, stopping here, or it can continue with different sandhis. Now let's see, samhita nasti chet. That means there is no samhita. When can this happen? That means agrimaha varnaha nasti. There is nothing after that, immediately after that. When can it happen? It can happen avasanam ityukte viramaha, that is pause. Samhita nasti means, when can it happen? Either it has to be antima aksharaha or vakye. Vakye, we know that it is separate. There is no samhita. Okay, because sandhi is optional, we may not make sandhi, therefore there will be pause. There will be no samhita. So there will be no samhita in a lesson, in our sentence, or if it is the only standalone word, whether it is antima or not, whether it has to be standalone word. So two possibilities are standalone word. The example would be Pratama Vibhakta Ekavachana Shabda. There, for example, Jagat. There it is a standalone word. In a sentence, Vakya Yatra Samhita Nasti, because there is no Samhita, where the Sandhi is optional, I have decided not to make a Sandhi. So that means there is no Samhita. Like Jagat Asti. Now what happens in the such condition? So there is one sutra, Va Avasane. It is called. Va avasane means this sutra, the number is 56. 55 is Chatva Sandhi Sutra. Okay. Very next to that is this sutra, which is just saying Va avasane. Va, we know, Vikalpena. Avasana. Avasana, what is it? I told you it means pause. Pause means there is no samhita. There is a break. So it is saying in a pause, optional. What is optional in a pause? Pause. So since it is after Chatvam, we will take anuvartate. What anuvartate? Jalam char avasaneva. Jalam, if there is a jal, char avasaneva. That means there will be an optional chartva when if there is a jal and there is a pause after it. That is, there is a avasana. That means there is no samhita. That means either in a standalone word or in a sentence. So till now we know everywhere Jaštvam happens, right? Everywhere Jaštvam happens, whether it is single word, sentence, samhita, everywhere. But then if it is a single word and if there is a pause, that means avasane, that means chartvam can happen optionally. This is the sutra. Avasane pare jhal varnasya vikalpena char varnadeshah bhavati. Avasane chartvam vikalpena bhavati. Optional chartvam takes place. When it is a standalone word or if it is there in a sentence, optional chartvam takes place. This, mind you, this is not the usual chartvam. Usual chartvam is nitya, and that happens if there is a karkasha vyanjana only. This is the next sutra after chartvam. So this is saying if there is a jhal and there is a pause after it, there can be an optional chartvam. Let's see what it means. Let's now consider Jagat Shabda. Okay, Pratama Vibhakti, Ekavachana, Samhita Nasti. So first, how is it formed? Jagat plus Sa. Sa is the Supratyaya that is getting added for 1.1. Okay. So what happens in the Prakriya of this one? The first step, Sa, this pratyaya that was getting added, supratyaya that was getting added in the formation of 1.1, tasya lopaha bhavati. It is lost. That means there is a lopa of this. So now Jagat is just a standalone. So now what happens? Jagat is there. Everywhere Jashtvam happens. So Jagat, it becomes Jagat because of Jashtvam. Now, since there is a pause, since there is nothing after it, since it is a standalone, since there is a avasanam, therefore there is a chance or an option of chartvam happening. Why? Because of the sutra vavasane chartvam. So Jagat now becomes Jagat. Okay? Because chartvam, optional chartvam can happen on this word which has nothing following it. Because there is a avasanam, pause, because there is an absence of samhita, therefore chartvam can happen, so it changes back to Jagat. This is the reason that Jagat or Jagat, dvayam api shuddham. One person had asked this question. There will be two forms. Why? So this is it. So Jashtvam ordinarily happens, but then since it is a standalone, because of this sutra, Chartvam also happens. So dvayam api shuddham. And now if you look at Vakya, say for example, Jagat asti. Here also, Jagat becomes Jagad asti. See, I am pausing. Why am I pausing? Because there is no samhita. Okay? We have decided not to make the sandhi here. There is no samhita. No samhita. Samhita nasti chet what? Avasanam bhavati. That means there is a pause. So Jagat asti becomes Jagad asti. And that because there is a pause and because of vavasane chartvam, vikalpena, it becomes Jagat asti. So both Jagat asti and Jagat asti are correct. Dvayam api shuddham. But the moment you decide to merge these words, it can only be Jagadasti and not Jagatasti. Okay? Only if there is a samhita, I mean if there is a avasanam, if there is no samhita, dvayam api shuddham. There are two forms. If there is a pause, the moment you decide to make a sandhi, there is no pause, there is a samhita, then there will be only one form. Okay, Jagat asti or Jagad asti if samhita is not mandatory, if there is no samhita. Same with Jagat vartate, it's just a mrudu vyanjana. So Jagat vartate or Jagad vartate, both are right, provided you pause. Jagad vartate, Jagat vartate. That's how you have to pronounce. Same thing with Jagat parivartate, Jagad parivartate. Here, dvayam api shuddham because there is an optional chartvam happening because there is a pause here. Vavasane chartvam. Avasane chartvam va. Please mute Bhavatu. Avasane in case of pause, chartvam optionally happens. So it can be Jagat or Jagat, but you have to pause. Now let's see what happens if it is samhita. Samhita, like for example in a samasa, it has to have a samhita, right? There has to be a sandhi. So let's take Jagata, Jagadamba. That means Jagataha Amba. Jagataha is Shashti. It is like Ramasya Devalaya. It is Shashti Vibhakti, okay? Shashti Samasa, Shashti Tatpurusha Samasa. So Jagataha Amba, the mother of the world. Jagataha Amba. This is the Vigraha Vakya. So if you say Jagat, Taha is Shashti Vibhakti, Pratyaya is this, Nyas. Amba, Pratama Vibhakti, Pratyaya is Su. So this is how you get Jagat Taha. This is a Pratyaya is getting added, this Pratyaya is getting added, Su. But then what again, when doing the this one also, Samasa, we take out the Pratyayas and then get the Pratipadikams of the first one. So Jagat is Jagat plus Amba, it becomes, so this changes to Jashtvam, Jagad Amba, Jagadamba. Here, there is no chance of that Va Avasane Chartvam because there is no Avasana, there is no pulse. There has to be a Samhita, there has to be a Sandhi. So Jagadamba is the only form. You can't say Jagad Amba. No. It is Jagadamba here in this case, where Samhita is a mandatory. Same with, here I've taken a Swara, here I've taken a Karkasha Vyanjana. Jagat Pita, same pratyaya getting taken away and coming back to Pratikapadikam form. Jagad Pita. See here, Jagad Pita it becomes because of Jastva. And in this case, there was no other Sandhi happening. But here, after Jastvam, Chartvam can happen. And mind you, this Chartvam is not the Vavasane Chartvam. This is a Chartvam that we studied, which is a Nitya, mandatory Chartvam. Okay? Karicha, that one. Chartvam. So this will happen. Jagat Pita now changes to Jagat Pita and it becomes Jagat Pita. Okay? So in your case, in this, they will start at this level and say Jagat Pita equals Jagat Pita Chartvam. Okay? Though this is happening and we are not aware of it, but please be aware that Jastvam happens, Chartvam happens, and then this. So Samhita Asti Chet Avasanam Na Bhavati. There is no pause. Vavasane Chartvam Bhavitum Na Arhati. There is no scope for that Vavasane Chartvam to happen. Ataha Ekameva Rupam. There, since there was an optional Chartvam happening, we had two forms. Here, there is no scope for that optional Chartvam to happen. So, there is only one form. So, whenever there is a Samhita, you get only one forms. Agrimaha Varnasya Ashritya Sandhihi Bhavati. Whenever there is Samhita. This is what we learnt. So, here, there was a break. So, that is why we had two forms. But still, much used, what you say, Rudhya. Jagat Asti is only used. Nobody says Jagad Asti. But both are fine, both are correct. If there is no Samhita, because of this Vavasane Chartvam happening, may or may not happen, that is why benefit is given as to both are right. But once Samhita is there is only one form. That means Sandhi has to happen and it has to be Jastvam, or in case of Karkasha Vyanjana, Jastvam and Chartvam. Okay? I think we've come to the end of it.
Just one doubt, Manya.
Yeah.
In this slide, Samase Samhite Nitya, because Samasa Jagataha Amba, we are saying Samhita is Nitya.
Yeah.
In the previous slide, the place where we are adding the Pratyaya, Prathama Vibhakti Pratyaya to Jagat, the first part of it, that is clear why Avasane it is optional. But in the second part, Jagat Asti,
this is in a sentence. I told you in a sentence, Samhita is a must wear, mandatory wear in Samasa and in, what is that? Upasarga and this thing. And whereas Samhita, only in Vakya it is not mandatory, right?
In Vakya it is not mandatory unless it is Samasa.
Padamadhye, Samase and Upasarga. Whenever you are joining Upasarga, Samhita is mandatory. Only in a Vakya it is not mandatory. This was told in the very first class. Okay, so it is not mandatory in a sentence. That means, see, you may, because in a sentence it is up to you to make a Sandhi or not. Right? Here, you can just say Jagat Asti with a pause, or you can make a Sandhi and say Jagad Asti. Correct? That is why, but if you intend to make it without Samhita, if it is left to you and you decide not to make a Sandhi, then you have both the options. You can write Jagat Asti or Jagad Asti. Both are right. Both are correct. Though in use, Jagat Asti is widely used, both forms are correct. But the moment you decide to make a Sandhi, only Jagad Asti will be right and not Jagat Asti.
Is Jagat plus Asti more common, ma'am? Because in all the shlokas we have seen, it's always Sandhi made in at least most of the cases, and it is Jagad Asti equivalent that we see in the shlokas, whatever we've been learning in the book.
Jagad Asti, yes, that means they have made a Sandhi there.
But Jagat plus Jagat Asti also is correct.
Jagatasti is also correct. Jagadasti is also correct, provided you separate them. Both forms are right. But I'm telling you, Jagatasti is more widely used probably. Okay, Jagatasti might not be used, but then it is also a correct form.
Okay.
But once you make the Sandhi, Jagadasti is the right form.
So that means 3 forms we can: Jagat Asti, Jagad Asti, Jagadasti.
Yes. In a sentence, yes.
In a sentence.
Yes.
Dhanyawad.
Okay, this is the end of what I have. Hope it clears your doubts. I hope it didn't confuse you. Honestly hoping it didn't confuse you.
No, there is absolutely no confusion.
Yeah. No confusion, ma'am. It's really very clear.
Very clear.
Doubts have been cleared.
If you're not confused. Somebody couldn't talk and she is on Mauna Vrata or something. She has any question?
She can't ask you, ma'am.
No. Somebody had asked her to write it.
Yeah, I know that.
Yeah, Rupa Jadhav Bhagini, it is recorded. Savita Bhagini, you're recording, right? Okay. Somebody is asking it. Okay. So please don't, this is only for your information.